Hello everybody. I'm in Dartmouth right now with two of our candidates, Michelle Lindsay and Ryan Slaley. So I'm very pleased to be here because we have a great announcement. As you know, I will start my announcement in English and after that in French. Je vais commencer en anglais et je vais terminer en français. So today, as you can see, there's a fog, but you can see maybe also behind me military boats. And I'm here today to speak about the state of our Canadian forces. The Canadian Armed Forces has a proud history and used to be one of the most capable and respected military forces in the world. Unfortunately, successive liberal and conservative governments have largely chosen to forget this proud history. They have starved our military forces of funds, equipment, and support. And they betrayed the trust placed in those who made an exceptional commitment by putting their lives at risk in the best interest of our nation. Today, our armed forces are in a sorry state. They are understaffed and under-equipped with outdated equipment. New jets, ships, and tanks and other equipment are taking forever to be ordered, purchased, and delivered. Our soldiers are not paid enough, and our veterans who have been injured or disabled do not receive adequate recognition, care, and compensation for the sacrifice they made. When a veteran who had lost a leg asked Justin Trudeau why his government was still fighting veterans groups trying to get their support from their government, that the government did promise that they will support us, and they are not doing that right now. But the answer coming from Trudeau was clear and loud. He said, "We cannot support you. It's because you are asking for more than we are able to give you right now." But Trudeau does not have enough money for our veterans, but he was able to find $20 billion in financial aid and equipment to the corrupt Ukraine government during the past 3 years. Trudeau did everything he could to destroy our proud Canadian forces by imposing his insane woke ideology on the military. We all remember the crazy story of the tampons in the men's bathrooms on our military base. In 2018, the Trudeau government imposed gender-based training on the forces. Our soldiers have to be brainwashed into gender and DEI ideology. DEI is a fundamentally racist, sexist, and discriminatory ideology that divides Canadians into oppressor and oppressed. It creates blatant injustices and undermines social cohesion. The new boss of the Canadian Armed Force, appointed by Trudeau last year, Jenny Carrigan, is the woke apparatchik who blocked DEI rules and diversity hiring quotas. She's the one who turned our forces into an organization promoting gender ideology nonsense. She's also the one who introduced an inclusive dress code so permissive that it had to be made more restrictive again. Another shameful decision by the woke generals who run the armed forces is that they fired hundreds of soldiers who refused to get the so-called vaccine during the COVID pandemic. One of our candidates here in Nova Scotia, Jeff Everly, is a retired member of the Canadian Armed Forces. According to him, the forced indoctrination into this woke ideology is leading to the collapse of the military. I can agree with him. He's right about that, and he knows what he's talking about. He had to leave after 20 years of service because he could not take it anymore. The situation is so bad that many are leaving the forces and fewer Canadians are interested in joining the forces. The armed forces still need about 14,000 recruits to reach their target. We should be hiring the most competent candidates to defend our country, and we are not doing that. Instead, the Army has filled quotas based on gender, sexual, and ethnicity. To be able to attract more recruits, the pool of applicants has recently been expanded to include permanent residents. Yes, foreigners, immigrants who are not even Canadian citizens yet, but we expect them to defend our country. The military is also recruiting people who suffer from anxiety, asthma, and attention deficit disorder. The cult of diversity is destroying our military, just like it is destroying our country. We need not only to increase the defense budget and make sure we get proper equipment for our armed forces, but even more importantly, we need an army of non-woke soldiers loyal to our country, loyal to Canada. A People's Party government will eliminate all DI programs, gender nonsense, and woke rules applying to the military. We will fire every non-citizen and we will restate those who were fired over the vaccine mandates. We will bring back the Canadian Armed Forces to what it should be, a strong army of a strong Canadian men and women willing to fight and defend our country. Maintenant, je vais faire ma déclaration en français. Bonjour à tous, je suis à Dartmouth ici. Vous pouvez voir derrière moi quelques bateaux des Forces armées canadiennes. Et aujourd'hui, notre annonce, c'est par rapport aux Forces armées canadiennes. Les Forces armées ont une fière histoire et faisaient autrefois partie des forces militaires les plus compétentes au monde. Malheureusement, les gouvernements libéraux et conservateurs ont en grande partie choisi d'oublier cette fière histoire. Ils ont privé nos forces militaires de fonds, d'équipements et de soutien. Ils ont brisé la confiance envers ceux qui se sont engagés à mettre leur vie en danger dans l'intérêt de notre pays. Aujourd'hui, nos forces armées sont dans un état lamentable. Elles manquent d'effectifs et sont sous-équipées avec du matériel désuet. Ça prend une éternité pour acheter et recevoir de nouveaux avions de chasse, des navires, des chars d'assaut et d'autres équipements. Nos soldats sont sous-payés et nos vétérans qui ont été blessés ou handicapés ne reçoivent pas la reconnaissance, les soins et l'indemnisation adéquate pour les sacrifices qu'ils ont faits pour notre nation. Lorsqu'un ancien combattant, ayant perdu une jambe, a demandé à Justin Trudeau pourquoi son gouvernement ne lui donnait pas le soutien promis et le soutien nécessaire. Trudeau lui a répondu « C'est parce qu'il demande beaucoup trop et nous ne sommes pas en mesure de lui donner. » Donc Trudeau n'a pas d'argent pour nos vétérans. mais il a envoyé 20 milliards de dollars et d'aides financières en équipement au gouvernement corrompu d'Ukraine au cours des 3 dernières années. Trudeau a fait tout ce qu'il pouvait pour détruire nos forces armées canadiennes. Une autre de ses décisions abominables a été d'imposer son idéologie woke aux militaires. Nous nous souvenons tous de l'histoire folle des tampons dans les toilettes pour hommes sur les bases militaires. En 2018, le gouvernement Trudeau a imposé une formation fondée sur le genre aux forces armées. Les soldats doivent maintenant subir un lavage de cerveau pour adopter l'idéologie du genre, celle de l'équité, la diversité et l'inclusion. L'EDI est une idéologie fondamentalement raciste, sexiste et discriminatoire qui divise les Canadiens entre oppresseurs et opprimés et crée une injustice flagrante et mine surtout la cohésion sociale. La nouvelle patronne des Forces armées canadiennes, nommée par Trudeau l'an dernier, Jenny Carrigan, est la parachute woke qui a imposé les règles d'équité, de diversité et d'inclusion et les quotas d'embauche fondés sur la diversité. C'est elle qui a transformé les Forces armées en une organisation qui fait la promotion des folies de l'idéologie du genre et qui a introduit un code vestimentaire inclusif, tellement permissif qu'il a fallu revenir au code plus restrictif. Une autre décision honteuse des généraux woke qui dirigent nos forces armées canadiennes fut celle de renvoyer des centaines de soldats qui ont refusé de recevoir le soi-disant vaccin pendant la pandémie COVID. L'un de nos candidats, ici en Nouvelle-Écosse, Jeff Everly, est un membre à la retraite des Forces armées canadiennes. Et selon lui, l'endoctrinement forcé de cette idéologie woke est en voie de mener l'armée à l'effondrement. Et je partage tout à fait son point de vue. Il a dû partir après 20 ans de service parce qu'il n'en pouvait plus. La situation est tellement mauvaise que beaucoup quittent les forces et qu'il y a moins en moins de Canadiens qui veulent s'y joindre. Les Forces armées ont encore besoin d'environ 14 000 recrues pour atteindre leur cible. Nous devrions embaucher des candidats les plus compétents pour défendre notre pays. Mais ce n'est pas le cas. Au lieu de cela, l'armée doit remplir des quotas basés sur la sexualité, le genre et l'origine ethnique. Et afin d'attirer plus de recrues, le bassin de candidats a récemment été élargi pour inclure les résidents permanents. Oui, des étrangers dans nos forces armées, des immigrants qui ne sont même pas encore citoyens canadiens. Et nous nous attendons à ce qu'ils défendent notre pays. Les militaires recrutent aussi maintenant des gens qui souffrent d'anxiété, d'asthme ou de troubles déficitaires de l'attention. Le culte de la diversité détruit notre armée, tout comme il détruit notre pays. Nous devons non seulement augmenter le budget de la défense, mais aussi nous assurer que nos forces armées disposent d'un équipement adéquat. Mais plus important encore, nous avons besoin d'une armée de soldats qui ne sont pas woke et qui sont fidèles au Canada. Un gouvernement du Parti populaire éliminera tous les programmes d'équité, diversité et d'inclusion, les absurdités liées au genre et les règles woke qui s'appliquent à nos militaires. Nous allons congédier tous les non-citoyens canadiens et nous allons réintégrer ceux qui ont été licenciés en raison de leur statut vaccinal. Nous ramènerons les Forces armées canadiennes à ce qu'elles sont censées être, une armée forte d'hommes et de femmes prêts à se battre pour défendre notre pays. Merci. Thank you very much. I'm ready to answer the questions. If we have questions here. Yeah.
Mr. Bernier, what does the People Party have to offer to those voters who in this election are primarily concerned with tariffs and threats to Canadian sovereignty?
Yes, on tariff, the question is what do we have to offer to Canadians who are not so happy with the tariffs and are scared about the sovereignty of our country. So on tariffs, as you may know, we are the only national political party who said in the beginning of that trade war that we must not impose tariffs on Canadians. And both Polyev and Carney and Trudeau at that time decided to impose a new tax on Canadians with 25% tariffs that we are imposing on everything that we are importing from the US. And as you know, that is the Canadian consumers and Canadian businesses who are paying for that. It is a tax. So our position on that is we must not do that. We cannot win a trade war against the US. So that's the most important. Second, what we must do is to be sure to have an economy that will be more productive. The way to do that is to balance the budget in 1 year, cutting the spending at the federal government to be able to balance the budget, and after that, lowering taxes to every Canadian. To have a real free trade agreement here in Canada in between provinces. To be sure also that we will, have a flat tax on business, and also at the same time, we need to eliminate the capital gains tax. So doing everything for our economy being more productive. And on the other question about the sovereignty of our country, when President said that Canada may be the 51st state, he was just doing what he did when he's having a negotiation with the partners. I had the opportunity and I took the time to read his book, The Art of a Deal, and that's the way he's beginning, a negotiation with another partners. And so when he was saying that, it was just to try to discredit us. But, in fact, we won't be the 51 states. We are a sovereign country, and Trump doesn't want to buy Canada, doesn't want to invade Canada. What he wants is a good deal with us, and to be sure to have a good deal, we need to put everything on the table. We need to put the supply management system, the cartel that we have in dairy, poultry, and milk. But for Polyev and Carney, they don't want to speak about that. But President Trump was very clear. He did a tweet about it, and he said that, he wants his dairy producers to be able to export their milk in Canada. But actually, Carney and Polyev are speaking about more free trade agreements to try to have to be less dependent than the US economy, than the US market. But you may not know, but last year we tried to have a free trade agreement with UK. And in UK, that agreement didn't work because we wanted to protect the dairy producers and that cartel. So we were not able to sign free trade agreements with the UK because of that cartel. So let's end that, put it on the table, and at the same time also we need to have a new negotiation about, the auto industry in Ontario. If you do that, we will be able to have a good deal, and actually that is what President Trump wants. He wants to reopen the free trade agreement, not in 2026, but today, right now. So that's what we have to offer to Canadians. Security, a trade deal, because we will put everything on the table, and we will be able to have a deal that is fair for us and fair for the Americans.
And why should voters
You have a
take
question
the
on the
People's
Zoom
Party and
here?
its candidates seriously when the polls indicate that there is such a two-way race between the Liberals and Conservatives in this election?
Yeah, because the People's Party is the only party, like I said in that answer before, the People's Party is the only party that is having a real solution for the challenges that we have in this country right now. If the People's Party platform is not enforced in Canada in the next couple of months, this country is going down the drain. We have mass immigration, and I believe that a lot of people are not happy. More than 70% of Canadians are saying no to mass immigration. We are so different than the Liberals and the Conservatives on the most important issues for the future of this country. If you believe in this country, if you want to have a prosperous country, you need to support our candidates here in Nova Scotia and all across the country. You know, we have a full slate of candidates that are ready to work for Canadians. And Canadians must understand that we are putting our country first, not the UN, not, Ukraine, Canadian first. And that's the only way to be sure that this country will be prosperous and Canadians will have more of their own money in their own pockets. So the People's Party has a very strong platform to put our country first. And I would ask Canadians, go and speak with your candidate, the People's Party candidates in your riding, and have a discussion with him or her, or go on our website, peoplespartyofcanada.ca, read our platform. It's all about you. It's all about to be sure that this country will survive. And we need first to end mass immigration and to have a moratorium on immigration. And we are the only party that is proposing that. The Liberals and the Conservatives are for mass immigration. We are not. Mass immigration is destroying the social fabric of our country, but also our economy. Our purchasing power is going down. Our standard of living is going down. We have more people coming here, and the economy is growing, but the GDP per capita is going down because, we have people are coming. The growth of our population is faster than the growth of our economy. Let's end mass immigration, and if you want that, the People's Party is the only party that is telling you the truth about that.
The fisheries are a very important industry in Nova Scotia, and I wonder how you think the Department of Fisheries and Oceans should be handling regulation of the lobster fishery in light of the controversy we've seen over the last few years over lobster harvesting outside of the regulated season.
Okay, it's about, can you just repeat it a bit? You said which industry? The fishery?
The lobster fishery specifically.
Yeah.
How should DFO be regulating Indigenous fishers harvesting outside of the regulated season?
Yeah, we need to have a new agreement about that. I don't know the details. I don't have the solution. That's why we have candidates that, understand the problematic and the challenges that you have here. I'm ready to listen to them. We need to have a new agreement that will be positive for commercial fishers and also for the First Nation. I cannot tell you the solution right now. We need to sit together and look at all these problems and have a real solution for the long term. Okay, so we don't have any more questions here. Do you have any question on the Zoom?
Yes, we have a question here on the Zoom. Go ahead.
Hi, Mr. Bernier. This is Jen Hodson from the Western Standard. You've made it clear that Canada shouldn't. Hi. You've made it clear that Canada shouldn't be part of global organizations like the WHO and the UN. What do you say about NATO and the 2% defense spending targets that Canada has signed up with NATO?
Yes, we must increase our investment in our national defense, like I said in my presentation. But before doing that, we need to have a new leadership at the national defense, a new leadership that would be in line with our values. And that being said, yes, the 2% of our GDP is a goal, and it can be achieved in a mandate, first. Second, the role of NATO. The goal is maybe to have a new agreement with the US about our security. We need to protect our borders, and we need also to be sure to protect our northern borders. We must do that. We have NORAD with the US. We may be able to reopen that to tell and to show everybody that we are able to protect our country. About our participation in NATO, we are not obliged to do everything that NATO is doing, like the war in Ukraine. I always said that, it's not our war. We didn't have to participate there. We just spend money, $20 billion for nothing when you have a big deficit here. So I prefer the traditional role of our country, peacekeeping and peacemaking. We didn't participate in the war in Iraq. That was a good decision. We are an independent and sovereign country. We can take our decision here for the benefit of our country.
Okay, thank you. And your comments on the war in Ukraine are well noted. Would you respond to comments made by the Liberals prior to the election call that having Canadian boots on the ground in Ukraine is something that could be on the table?
It must not be on the table. It is not our war. We don't have to participate to that war. And, I'm more on the side of President Trump, who is trying to have a peace deal between Ukraine and Russia. That must be it. There's almost 1 million Ukraine deaths. We need to stop that. Actually, what the federal government and the conservative want to do is to engage us in that war. We must not participate, and it's a very wrong idea. Ukraine must be neutral, we must not have a NATO base in Ukraine, a NATO base at the doors of Russia. It was not good for President Kennedy in the 1960s. He didn't want a NATO base in Cuba. Not a NATO base, sorry, a Soviet base in Cuba. That was important for him. He didn't want to have any missiles in Cuba. And so if we have a NATO base there, that will be very dangerous for the world peace. So I agree with President Trump that Ukraine must be neutral. And I'm not in favor of putting more money and sending troops in Ukraine.
Okay, very good. Thank you. And one more final question, if I might pivot slightly about our economy. Should we have the income tax in Canada?
Yeah, the best tax, it's always the consumption tax, because you can decide if you pay tax or not. If you don't spend your money, you won't pay any taxes, and that's in line with growth and growing your wealth. So we have an income tax in Canada that was supposed to be temporary, just to pay for the First World War. Our proposal on that is to have, instead of 5 tax brackets, 3, and going down to a flat tax. But to be sure to be able to eliminate the income tax, we will need to have a smaller government. In our proposal is to cut the spending. We can save about $50 billion in 1 year, balancing the budget. And maybe the goal will be to have a flat tax for individual. And after that, if you have a government that is small enough and that is not interfering in provincial jurisdictions, that is respecting provincial autonomy, that will be a great goal, to have no income tax. But I don't see that in the near future.
Okay, thanks very much for taking my questions.
Nous n'avons pas d'autres questions
Thank you.
sur le Zoom.
Okay, merci everybody. Thank you everybody.